From Iowa.
On May 7th, we learned of a cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline. This resulted in gas shortages and lines across the East Coast. You see it on television every day. During the news conference, Energy Secretary Granholm said, quote, "Pipelines are the best way to transport fuel," end of quote. This is certainly a fact. Pipelines are much safer than transporting oil by rail or truck. Iowa has over 40,000 miles of pipeline, which go largely unnoticed, but play a large role in providing our nation's transportation fuel. It is not lost on millions of Americans that this statement from the Energy Secretary comes from the same administration who on day one, January the 20th, shut down the Keystone Pipeline. On day one, January the 20th, this administration cut 10,000 jobs. Remember, they ran on a platform of creating jobs. This has already resulted in rising gas prices like we're seeing across the country. In fact, gas prices will soon be more expensive than at any time since the Obama administration. This cyber attack on Colonial showed America just how critical pipeline infrastructure is for transportation and how that affects national security. For an administration that is stressing infrastructure, maybe they should take a second look at the decision on January the 20th to shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. I shudder to think that if the Colonial Pipeline was attempting to get a permit today, this administration might not even allow the construction. The United States should be encouraging private infrastructure investment, not getting in the way of progress that investment would bring. As long as our country is still relying on oil to fill our gas tanks, we need to have the infrastructure and security in place so that what happened last week never happens again. When there's a shortage of oil, then biofuels can be an easy substitute that can be subbed in. But again, government red tape is getting in the way. The Environmental Protection Administration should quickly finalize a rule to broaden the availability of existing infrastructure for use with E15, ethanol, and related labeling requirements. This would allow more gas stations to use their current tanks for E15. We need a balanced approach, and biofuels such as ethanol and biodiesel can help achieve greenhouse gas reductions, strengthen our national security, keeping gas prices in check, and helping agriculture of America at the same time. On another matter, Mr. President, I have heard from a large number of Iowans convinced that a republic is effectively lost with the election of President Biden. This seems to be like Flight 93 election theory in the 2016 election, where some conservatives felt that if Clinton won, the country would be lost for good. So, like the Flight 93 passengers who raced the cockpit at the last-ditch attempt to avert a catastrophic outcome that probably would have hit this Capitol building, they argued that any alternative to Clinton was justified. The left then felt the same way after Trump won. When President Trump was elected, I received an outpouring of messages expressing a truly startling degree of fear and anguish. It's as if we had just elected an evil king or dictator. Understanding human nature, The framers of our Constitution set up a system of separation of powers, knowing it was not safe to just trust the character of individual public officials. The president is supposed to see, as the Constitution said, see that the laws be faithfully executed, not to be some all-powerful elected king. The American presidency shouldn't be, and was never supposed to be, so important or so powerful that Americans ought to feel that their entire future is at stake every 4 years. Yet, many Americans do feel that way. And it isn't all just a misunderstanding. Presidential power has gone beyond its proper bounds as intended by the Constitution. And why is that? That why is it lies right here with the Congress of the United States. Because over time, Congress has delegated too much authority, piece by piece, in countless bills, and failed to this very day to do much to take back that authority. During the Trump administration, I worked to reclaim some delegated powers over tariffs, emergency declarations, and regulation, but lacked sufficient bipartisan support to get the job done. I have no illusions that a Democrat Congress will limit President Biden's powers, but perhaps we could agree to reclaim powers for Congress with some future effective date. So much focus on one person, whether it's Republican or Democrat, and one election every 4 years, like we worried about 2016, or people are still worrying about 2020. That's not a healthy environment for a democracy. Restoring the proper balance between the presidency and the Congress can help restore some balance to our fiscal discourse. I yield the floor and suggest the absence of a quorum.